Hello, this is Ken at the Nationalist Association of Black and White Men Together. Today, I want to talk about NABWMT's fight against homophobia and racism. And now we need to add to that, looking at book bans. Since we've been fighting homophobia and racism, we now need to be aware that books by LGBTQ and Black authors are under attack. In my opinion, book banning is a violation of our First Amendment rights. When the government bans a book, it sends a clear message that certain ideas are not acceptable in society. Does that sound familiar to you in your life? A society in which bans books is no longer a free society. It is one in which the government tells the people what books to read and therefore what ideas to encounter and ultimately what to think. Importantly, Black and gay books are the source of history in those communities. The Keller Independent School District, just outside of Dallas, passed a new rule in November. It banned books from its library that include the concept of gender fluidity. The change was pushed by 3 new school board members elected in May with support from Patria Mobile, a self-described Christian cell phone carrier. Through its PAC, that's a political action committee, Patria Mobile poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into Texas school board races to promote candidates with conservative views on race, gender, and sexuality, including on which books children can access at school. Usually, library books are decided between a concerned parent and a librarian or administrator, and results in a single title or a few books being reevaluated and either removed or returned to shelves. But recently, a rapidly growing and increasingly influence of conservative groups has changed this. The organizations describe themselves as defending parental rights with a recent focus on books. The groups have pursued their goals by becoming heavily involved in local and state politics, where Republican efforts have largely outmatched liberal organizations in many states for years. They have created PACs, funded campaigns, endorsed candidates, and PAC school boards, fueling challenges to individual books and to drive changes in the rules governing what books are available to children. These groups claim the books to be sensitive, inappropriate, or even pornographic. In practice, the books have been about Black or LGBTQ people, according to the American Library Association. In Texas, 11 school boards candidate backed by Patriot Mobile Action, the PAC formed by that company, won in 4 districts this year, including Keller. The committee's aim is to eliminate, quote, critical race theory and LGBTQ indoctrination from schools. Even books without sexual content can be problematic if they include LGBTQ characters because they are, quote, sexualizing children, and, quote, it is normalizing a lifestyle that is a sexual choice. Amid growing polarization, books exploring racial and social issues are drawing fire in different parts of the United States. As these book bans explode across the country, librarians themselves find that they're on the front lines of an acrimonious culture war, with their careers and their reputations at risk. The American Civil Liberties Union and other advocacy groups filed a federal civil rights complaint against the Keller School District, arguing that banning books about gender fluidity creates, quote, a perversively hostile atmosphere for LGBTQ students. The book bans don't want to use the word ban. Instead, they remove, relocate, restrict. all of these other words that aren't banned, but we know it's a ban. There are at least 50 groups across the country working to remove books they object to from libraries. Many of these groups were formed to fight COVID restrictions in schools. Some groups adopted a broader conservative agenda focusing on opposing instructions on race, gender, and sexuality, and on removing books as they regard as inappropriate. Alarmingly, there is a Florida bill that gave all county residents, not just parents, county residents, the power to challenge a book in the school districts. Opponents say it contributed to waves of book challenges. The Florida Board of Education and districts said districts should interpret a book list. Some librarians and parents are concerned it will have a chilling effect. Librarians across the state are already self-censoring for fear of retribution and asking themselves, am I ready to defend this book? Is this worth the fight? The US has a long history of book banning, and it's not only picking up steam in 2022, it's also becoming more problematic. Some of the most frequently banned books include the graphic novels Mouse by Art Spiegelman, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, Old Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson, and Stamped, Racism, Anti-Racism, and You by Ibrahim X. Kendi and Jason Reynolds. Here are 4 reasons why banning doesn't work. First, students deprived of text that will enable them to construct their learning rather than have it forced down their throats. Don't want to learn, and worse, don't learn how to learn. The second reason is that we are curious folks, and every time a book is banned, that book has become the most popular book in town. Students want to read it to see why it was banned. The third reason is that students are usually more resilient and knowledgeable than their parents know they can handle. They often need the text some parents want to tear out of their hands. And finally, reason 4 is that our democracy was designed for a knowledgeable electorate, and having someone dictate what we can or cannot learn does not produce such an electorate. Now, the NABWMT was formed to educate and did so for over 40 years on these issues. Let us not allow these book bans to exist. They could erase our history of struggles. This is Ken. Thank you so much for listening. And would you mind liking and subscribing and comment on our platforms? We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and other platforms. Our website is NABWMT, and you can reach us by email at nabwmt@nabwmt.org. Thank you so much for